The Boy Who Took More Than His Share, Luka and the Bag of Groundnuts. Welcome back to Kasupe Studios. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which city and which country you are watching this from. Our stories travel further every time you share. These stories must reach children everywhere. African wisdom must be preserved. Like, subscribe, and share, because storytelling is how nations heal. In a small village near the Lower Shire, where dry season dust made the air taste like memory, lived an 11-year-old boy named Luka. Luka loved food more than anything, groundnuts especially. He could eat them roasted, raw, pounded, salted, sweetened, mixed in relish, any kind, any time. His mother always joked, if groundnuts could become a person, Luka would marry them. Every year when harvest time came, all the children helped shell the groundnuts in big communal piles, together, laughing, talking, teasing, and after they finished, each family took home an equal share of the harvest. But Luka had one problem. He didn't like equal share. He wanted more, not because he was hungry, but because he believed that if he didn't take extra first, someone else would take what should have been his. Greed always begins with the belief that scarcity is coming, even when abundance is present. This year, Luka decided he would secretly hide more groundnuts in his pockets before the sharing. He planned everything: where to sit, how to scoop the nuts quietly, which shirt had the deepest pockets, and on the day of communal shelling, Luka carried out his plan without fear. He took more than everyone else, but he did not know. This year, the harvest was smaller than usual, and his greed would not only hurt others, it would come back to hurt him in a way he did not expect. As the children sat under the big tamarind tree cracking shells and laughing, Luka worked quietly, faster than everyone, and every few minutes he slipped extra handfuls of groundnuts into his shirt pockets. Nobody noticed, or so he thought. His pockets grew heavier and heavier, and his heart felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. Not guilt, yet. Greed doesn't show guilt at first. Greed shows thrill. When the work was finally done, the elders divided the sacks evenly. Each family received a measured bag. Same amount, same weight. Everyone was satisfied. Everyone except Luka. He smirked quietly, thinking he had outsmarted the system. He ran home proudly with his hidden extra stash. That night he snuck outside after dinner, sat behind the house, and opened his stolen pile. He roasted some on a small charcoal brazier, enjoying every crunchy bite. He felt victorious. But victory built on taking more than your share is always short-lived. 2 weeks later, drought stretched harder than expected. The sun burned stronger. Water levels dropped. Crops stopped flowering early, and families began rationing their groundnuts because the next harvest was still far away. People began using nuts sparingly in relish, saving, preserving, counting. But in Luka's house, their bag was running out too fast. His mother frowned one day as she scooped from the bag. "How did this finish so quickly?" Luka swallowed hard. He didn't want to admit that every night he had been snacking secretly, eating the stolen nuts while everyone slept. Greed had made him blind to tomorrow. The same greed that made him take more, now made him run out first. One evening, when his mother opened the bag and saw almost nothing left, she sat down heavily on the stool and sighed. "These groundnuts were supposed to last us until the next rains," she said quietly, almost talking to herself. "How did we finish so quickly?" Luka felt his stomach tighten the way it did when he lied. He looked away. His tongue felt heavy. His heart felt heavier. That night he tried to sneak out again to roast the last handful he had hidden. But this time, his little sister, Tadala, woke up and followed him quietly. She stood behind him without him noticing. When he poured the secret stash into the roasting pan, she whispered, "Luka, why do you have more?" He jumped. The look of fear on his face was immediate. "Tadala, don't tell anyone," he hissed in panic. "Please, if you tell, I will get in trouble." Tadala looked at the small pile of nuts, then back at him. In her innocent, quiet voice, she said, "But Luka, when you take more than your share, it means somebody in the village ate less than theirs." Those simple words hit him harder than any adult lecture ever could. Greed always hides the victim. It convinces you no one is harmed, but someone always pays. Sometimes tomorrow pays. Sometimes the community pays. Sometimes your own family pays. Tonight? Luka finally saw it. His mother's tired face, the empty family bag, his little sister going to bed hungry some nights, and he had been eating extra secretly, alone. It was suddenly unbearable. He couldn't swallow the roasted nut in his hand. For the first time, he felt shame, not regret because he might be caught. Regret because he finally understood harm. The next morning, Luka woke before sunrise. He could barely sleep after Tadala's words. He knew what he had to do, not because he wanted to avoid punishment, but because his spirit felt bruised by what he took. He waited until the village children gathered again near the tamarind tree before school. Then he stood up in front of them, heart thumping hard in his chest. His voice trembled, but he spoke anyway. I took more groundnuts than everyone. I hid them. I ate them alone. And now my family has run out before everyone else, and I am sorry. The children gasped. Some stared in confusion, some in disappointment. But Luka didn't run away from their faces. He stood still. He needed to stand inside the discomfort, to feel the truth fully, so it wouldn't shape him again in darkness. One boy shouted, "Why did you do it? We all worked the same." Luka nodded slowly. I was scared there wouldn't be enough, but I made the problem worse. He closed his eyes and said the sentence he needed to say out loud, the sentence that changes children into adults. More than my share is less for someone else. That moment, something shifted in the space, not because he admitted a wrongdoing, but because he took responsibility. Later that day, the elders called him aside. They did not beat him. They did not humiliate him. They asked him to do something harder. He would help the entire village prepare and plant an extra small groundnut garden near the river, not as punishment, as restoration, because in African moral culture, you fix what you broke with your hands, and that is how the heart learns. Luka nodded. I will do it. And he meant it. The next morning, Luka woke early and carried a hoe to the small plot near the river where the elders said the new groundnut patch would be planted. Kids usually hated field chores, but Luka felt different this time. He wanted his hands to repair what his greed had damaged. He wanted the soil to know he was learning. As he began loosening the earth, his mother approached silently and stood beside him. She didn't scold him. She didn't lecture. She simply placed her hand gently on his back and said, Son, I am proud you are correcting it yourself. Those words broke him inside, in a healing way, not a shaming way. He looked up at her with tears in his eyes. I don't ever want to take more than what is fair again, he whispered. She nodded. That is how real men grow, not from perfection, but from accountability. Over the next days, Luka and several other children helped plant the new groundnut patch. They watered it, cleared weeds around it, protected it from goats wandering near the banks. Luka noticed something profound during this process. Working together felt better than hoarding alone. Planting felt better than stealing. Giving future food felt better than secretly consuming it now. Greed is lonely, but contribution feels like belonging. One evening, Tadala sat beside him as they watered the seedlings. You know, she said softly, when you took more before, I used to feel afraid, because if you think like that when you grow up, what else will you take? Luka swallowed hard. Her words were not angry, just honest. He shook his head gently. No, Tadala, I will be different now. I learned. She smiled. Good, because greedy boys become greedy men, and greedy men destroy whole villages. Luka understood completely. This was not about groundnuts. This was about character, who he would become, and who he would not become. As the weeks passed, the new groundnut patch began to sprout, small green leaves pushing bravely through the soil. Every time Luka saw them, he felt something inside him repair just a little more. He began understanding a deeper truth. Taking gives a moment of pleasure. Planting gives a future. One day the village chief came to visit the new patch. He walked slowly along the rows, inspecting the young seedlings. When he reached Luka, he placed his hand gently on the boy's shoulder and said, "You did a wrong thing, but you chose to correct it with your hands. That is how community survives." Then the chief added, "Greed is hunger for today that starves tomorrow. Wisdom plants for tomorrow even when today is not enough." Luka breathed those words deeply. He would remember them for the rest of his life. At the end of the season, when the new patch was harvested, the groundnuts were shared among the families. And Luka received the last bag, not the first, and he accepted it without bitterness, because he now understood something very important. You cannot claim the largest share in a future you did not help plant. He sat with his mother and Tadala as they roasted a small handful from their bag that night, just enough for everyone. And as he tasted them, they felt different, more valuable, more meaningful, more earned. They tasted not like greed, but like responsibility. That night, Luka wrote one sentence in the dirt beside the cooking fire with a stick. "Enough is wealth. More than enough is poison pea."